we think of the water industry, we as insiders have different level of insight than the general public. Some of this is for the better to avoid TMI and information overload. Not everybody can do every job, right? But how do we translate what we know and the data that we have into useful tools for consensus-driven decision making and create transparency? This is a big challenge for the folks in water. In some ways, companies and utilities have been creating transparency for decades with financial and sustainability reporting. Yet, the inner workings of how decisions are made, dollars spent, and how things work is often a mystery to those outside of the water industry. The feedback loop between decision makers, the public, and external stakeholders is always challenging, but it's critical to deliver clear, understandable, and meaningful communications. Next, we'll explore some ways that we can restore that data feedback loop while justifying, quantifying, and sharing your decisions. We're talking about the use of GIS tools to enhance decision-making and build public trust in your utility. We've boiled it down to 3 steps. 1, digitize your records. 2, optimize your records. And 3, socialize by sharing your records. Hannah will present 3 examples of how the water industry is using GIS to build better data and share that data in meaningful ways.
Hi, my name is Hannah Frels. I'm a project engineer with Plummer Associates in Austin, Texas. I'm here with my WLI team today to expand upon ways to effectively share data with users in order to support data-driven decision-making. Decisions require a consolidated understanding of facts, probabilities about the future, and boundary conditions about your scenario. Historical utility data can support the decision-making processes, like, do I have enough funding for this year? What is the likelihood that I will have another compliance issue with this facility or that discharge location? Should we pick type A or type B technology for new equipment or software? And do we need to hire more staff? The first step we're going to present for data-driven decision makings is to digitize your utility data. Streamlining access to data across departments is a critical goal for internal coordination. For example, the treatment plant staff needs lab reports from the water quality team to run their plant and make operational decisions. But each department has a different server, a different spreadsheet format, and the analytical machine still prints out paper reports. In contrast, the cloud, centralized dashboards, and online data sharing systems for check-in, check-out, or concurrent work could take one step out of this do loop and could redirect employee hours to thought work instead of just busy work. Field staff greatly benefit from in-field data recording instead of clipboard forms that must be manually copied back into the system before a coffee stain hits the page. Knowing that information is accessible, backed up, and thoughtfully handled is an underrated way to build confidence within the organization and empower your team to make the best decisions across multiple platforms. Imagine being able to answer a customer or employee's question with the assurance of data-backed statement.
One example of public organized data is from the Lower Colorado River Authority in Central Texas. I want to show you guys a quick walkthrough of the LCRA Hydromet database, available publicly online. The LCRA's mission is to protect the water quality of the river basin and the streams associated with the Colorado River. They actively monitor quality and flow and organize their data into a publicly available geodatabase.
By having this digitized database, LCRA reduces inquiries for historical data, consolidates their data storage methods, and promotes transparency within the basin. This is a great example of how an organization's effort to digitize their records provided simple, relatable outputs to their customers and constituents. The second step in data-driven decision-making and effectively sharing data with your users is to optimize. This means making your GIS platforms the most user-friendly so they're ready for implementation across multiple user groups. Compiling asset data into concise geotagged reports with photos attached can streamline the question-answer decision cycle. With QGIS, a free online app for viewing, editing, and analyzing of geospatial data, or the traditional ArcMap GIS software, a live system-wide database can be developed. Geospatial data can be accessed through the app, and the different attributes of the utility system can be represented geographically. Attributes can be anything that show relevant data pieces on the GIS system and can be presented visually to provide quick data facts. Here are just some examples of attributes that can be represented this way geographically: water meter locations or sewer collection lines, pump station, lift station locations, or sewer manhole locations. The list goes on. For example, water meters can be displayed in different sizes based on historical average use or peak use. Wastewater collection lines can be displayed as thicker or thinner line types based on installation date or most recent rehabilitation. You can even calculate a risk score in GIS or assign an estimated construction cost to an attribute to show the public where the work is needed and the associated costs with that work. Coordination with field staff will ensure long-term usefulness and implementation of this geodatabase system. Once the system is optimized, water industry leaders can share this data with the public in meaningful ways. For example, the City of Goodyear leverages GIS mapping to share the capital improvement plan with their constituents. This plan clearly shows where projects are needed, projects that are under construction, and even projects which have been completed. The projects are also organized by type, such as water, wastewater, public works, even parks and recreation. The CIP mapping is a great example of GIS data that has been optimized for both interagency and public viewing. The presentation of these details helped me as a public participant understand where my water fees are being used and gives me ownership of the infrastructure in my town. The third part of effectively sharing data with the users is to socialize that data. Utility employees and leaders benefit from access to organized data to identify trends and make more data-driven decisions. This organized data empowers leaders to fully understand the data trends within their organization and share with the public and other departments in meaningful ways. From the public's perspective, these outputs are easy to understand, they present the facts, and they provide a visual frame of reference. Rolling up data into meaningful tidbits that are digestible to a public palate can really facilitate positive feedback loops and drive shared decision-making forward. My last example of making data work for you is the Saco River Drinking Water Resiliency Project, which shares a GIS story map articulating anticipated needs and threats to the drinking watershed of the Saco River. This mapping tool is built to be public-facing. It's a storytelling initiative using meaningful data points organized into an easily understood method. Now I'd like to introduce Emily. She'll talk with us more about how this digitized data can be leveraged to build trust.
Hi, I'm Emily Cole-Prescott. I work for the City of Saco's Water Resource Recovery Department in compliance. Over the past year, key components of our jobs have transitioned to the digital world where answers are expected in a fast-paced, ever-changing environment. One of the biggest shifts in this decision-making for the next generation will be how to convey ideas concisely and cohesively to build consensus in platforms beyond the usual face-to-face interactions. The water industry must remain vocal to share the value of clean water, the often invisible infrastructure that conveys it, and the faces behind it. Accessible and clear, consistent messaging go a long way to build trust and actively connect to community values. In this video, we've seen a few ways in which GIS integration can be a useful tool to share meaningful information with the public. Although not always an easy task, managing and communicating data well leads to opportunities for better decision-making and prompt attention when issues arise. This data empowers leaders to identify vulnerabilities and take a proactive approach to mitigate risks, ultimately building user confidence in the organization. As our users demand more data about water decisions, we need to be prepared to answer these inquiries in timely and efficient methods. Public trust at the national level has been on a historic decline, but residents have still expressed trust in their local leaders. Climate initiatives such as clean water standards are often spurred by local groups. Our team looks forward to sharing our findings on how local decisions, fueled by data and shared in a meaningful way, can build this public trust at the upcoming WEFTEC Roundtable. Thank you.